questions I've been getting a lot lately is whether my work is on paper or canvas. So these larger pieces stuck on the wall here. They are canvas, but I do want to talk a bit about paper versus canvas, because the question I get a lot is if I work on paper or canvas, and the short answer is actually both, but I want to take you a bit more in depth on the reasoning behind paper or canvas and the things you might want to consider yourself if you're looking to make the choice or transition from one or the other. So some things to consider if you're working on paper. A lot of times if we buy a pack of paper, this is a big A4 watercolor paper pad, there are only 12 sheets in here, right? So we can get quite precious about using the paper because we only have 12 sheets, right? So alternatively, what I used to do and what I also sometimes do still is I divide the paper into several pieces. It could be, I could be using masking tape, right? And to divide the paper, or even divide it into several more pieces like that, because it makes me less precious when I'm working on several pieces at a time. Alternatively, I will sometimes, I'm lucky to find a big bargain pad of watercolor paper here. There's 100 sheets in this one, right? So this makes me really feel that I have the right to experiment, because I have all these pieces of paper. Try if you can find a big piece of a big block of watercolor like this with many sheets, or get a bigger one on sale and divide it into several smaller pieces. We're all looking to save money, right? So this is definitely a good idea. Also, you can gesso the paper and paint on top of it again if you're not happy with what you did. I started out painting on stretched canvas, pre-stretched canvas. For various reasons. One thing is, if you buy it unstretched, you usually have to buy this huge roll, and it can be a bit of an investment. So I've been really using pre-stretched canvases for a long time. But one of the problems I encounter when painting on pre-stretched canvas, and something I also see the students that I have in my in-person classes, they can sometimes struggle with this problem. Let me show you. I'm just going to demonstrate on this small canvas here. So we have the stretcher bars here on the back, right? Sometimes there will even be a few here on the back as well. So when you're painting on the canvas, maybe pressing against the canvas itself as you're painting and getting creative on your canvas. Sometimes if you press hard, you'll actually, the bounce of the canvas will actually afterwards kind of leave a mark that you can see where the stretcher bar is on the back. It's quite possible, and sometimes even that middle stretcher bar is visible. So that can be a real problem, especially if you painted a painting you really like, and you can see that stretcher bar. So for a lot of years, I actually took pieces of cardboard. It's a piece of hard backing from an old watercolor pad. So I would take pieces of cardboard like this and just slip it in and push it in under the stretcher bars around. So when you are pressing against the front of the canvas, you'll actually won't see this the stretcher bars underneath. It works fine, especially on smaller paintings, but once you start scaling up a bit, it gets a bit impractical. For a lot of years I really just I felt a bit inhibited by the way I was painting, because I had to be careful where I was pressing against the canvas all the time. More recently I've started working on loose canvas, so these pieces of canvas that are attached to the wall here behind me, and because loose pieces of canvas I can, first of all I can decide what size I want. I do buy them in bigger rolls now, and I can cut out the exact size that I want. I put it up here on the wall, and I can press against the canvas as hard as I want without making any kind of marks, or there's definitely no stretcher bars right that you can see through. And I really like that when I'm in the painting process, that I can just really let loose and do my thing, really get into the action of painting sometimes. Sometimes it's all quiet and slow, and sometimes I can be sitting and considering a mark and then just go for it, you're right. So more and more I've become quite accustomed to this type of working. And I think it really stems from my passion of, first when I started out painting was watercolor on watercolor paper, right? So I always really preferred painting on paper to canvas. And I think it dawned on me much later, many years later, that it's actually because that bounce of the canvas and the edge of the canvas, it interferes with the free flow of the way that I paint. And I always have to keep in mind, don't press too hard, or be careful near the edges, things like that. With paper it's not like that. So I think I found the perfect balance for getting the freedom that I want when I'm painting, and also don't get any unwanted marks. Then there's also the question of, is it more professional, is it more better or fine in some way of working on canvas? And I think it's probably a preconceived idea that I had as many years ago when I was younger, that painting on canvas, then you were more a serious artist than if you were working on paper. And I don't really know why I had this idea, because that's in no way true at all. Some people might think that works on paper are only for preliminary work and sketches and things like that, but that's not true at all. You can do serious, real fine art working on paper. So I just want to really make a point of that. So don't feel that you're any less of an artist because you're working on paper. So some things to consider whether you want to choose paper or canvas is whether or not you like that bounce of the canvas, or if you like a firm, smooth surface to work on. I know there are other differences as well, but for me this is one of the biggest issues of paper versus canvas. There's also the issue of storing finished artworks. I have been painting on canvas for many years, so I've had canvases stacked up behind my door in the bedroom, underneath my bed, on top of the different shelves of books, and all sorts of places. Canvas pieces of canvas, they just take up a lot more space than pieces on paper, which you can usually store in drawers, or you can get these big acid-free kind of boxes where you can put in your work as well and slide it under your bed perhaps. So I think that's worth also maybe considering what kind of storage you have in mind. And lastly, of course, the cost of paper versus canvas, both in terms of actually buying the paper and the canvas, but also the cost of framing the finished pieces. In my experience, framing pieces of work on paper is a lot more expensive because you need both the mat, right, and the glass and the frame itself. A lot of times work on canvas doesn't even necessarily need to be framed. Some of my customers actually prefer the work to be unframed, so I paint the edges of the stretched canvas is painted, right, so it's part of the image itself. So my work can be displayed both with and without a frame. But in general, framing canvas work can be a bit more budget friendly than pieces on paper. I have painted both on paper and canvas throughout my time as a painter, and I still work on both paper and canvas, and really I let my inspiration and the feeling guide me whether I'm working or on canvas or paper, but definitely larger work is always on canvas. There is the question of the texture, the absorbency of paper versus canvas as well. So really, depending what I want to try and test and experiment or paint, I let that guide my decision whether I'm choosing to paint on canvas or paper. And if you want to see a video of how I mount these larger pieces of canvas to the wall, I made a whole video on that, so I will link to that below this video, so you can take a look at that. And also, if you haven't grabbed my free painting guide, you can go ahead and do that. I give away a free painting guide called 5 Proven Ways to Loosen Up Your Painting Style. So if you're looking to loosen up your painting style and paint with more freedom and still within some kind of guidelines, but you know what you want to free up your paint, but you're looking for some clear steps to get you there. You can download the guide and see what steps I have, and these are really things I use myself every day, all the time in the studio, and it's a good reminder even for myself, so I have them on the wall for myself as well. So if you want your own copy, download the guide. It's a PDF file. Download the guide below this video. I'll leave a link for you. I hope this video was useful, and thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.